it just seems so quaint to look back at the 80s and the kind of media environment, cultural environment that they inhabited, and then look at the frenzy that we're in, where
Yeah.
like, it seems like you could still have an attention span in 1986.
Mm.
I know writers at the time were like not convinced that that was true,
Yeah,
but
because isn't that like the MTV age?
mhm,
And so like it's
television, man.
yeah, and then what were the whole narrative of MTV was that like these kids are watching this like attention deficit disorder theater that's
Hmm.
going to like melt their minds and really destroy American values, the like core American values, and it was like Reagan versus MTV is like those are the poles of pop culture in the 80s. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. That conversation does seem like it comes back a lot.
I was explaining to students once recently that like, no, there were hearings on Capitol Hill about like rap lyrics. And like, senators were quoting like NWA and, Public Enemy and people like that, who were seen as like serious threats. And it's just a different time. I mean, I don't remember it directly. I've learned about it
You
since.
remember the Justin Timberlake Janet Jackson thing though, don't you?
I do. And I remember how like, people talked about that for months, it
Because
seemed
there was
like.
there was
Yeah.
congressional testimony over that
Yeah.
because there were like I think there were fines like CBS had to pay fines and things like
Hmm.
that and there I remember watching like a senator or a congressperson like weeping on TV saying that like my 10-year-old son we gathered around to watch the Super Bowl, which is supposed to be the most family friendly entertainment there is.
And look what
uh,
he saw.
yeah, he saw like a naked female breast covered in a pasty. And what she said was, I'll never forget the line because she said that Janet Jackson stole my son's innocence that day, and Justin Timberlake drove the getaway car.
Yeah, and isn't it like, didn't
That
it
was
turn
like
out?
2003 or four.
Yeah, and like there were bigger things going on, right? It was the Iraq War, like,
Yeah.
Bush and Cheney were in power, ruining the world and setting the
Hmm.
stage for the, what we live in now.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, talking about like that era, to a lot of my students who are 18, 19, 20, George W. Bush is this kind of grandfather who paints, who is controversial. And I try to explain to them like, no, people like, what people said about Trump, like it was similar in, the atmosphere then, and they don't know about it because it's been memory hold.
It really has. It's weird because yeah, I remember like when Ellen went to like a football game or baseball game with George W. Bush recently, and people were like, they kind of like shit
Yeah.
on Ellen for doing that, but it still wasn't like it didn't have the whole context and capture exactly how like why people of our generation would look at that and be like, Jesus, because Ellen in the 90s represented something. I know it's weird to think of now
Yeah.
because it was just like a fucking sitcom, and like her coming out of the closet on a sitcom was kind of late considering like everything that happened in like gay culture and movements for decades. But either way, it was a big step. And like I
Mhm.
remember being young and being like, Ellen is kind of a symbol of the progressive values that I want to be a part of, honestly. And then and George W. Bush was the devil. I mean, literally, I had a T-shirt of George W. Bush as Hitler. Like I was like that kid that just fucking hated it so much. Yeah, and so to see them together was like profound, but I don't think a lot of young people understood why.